During Christmas dinner, my daughter-in-law looked me straight in the eye and said, "This seat is for my father. Move." The room went silent, but I didn't. I smiled, stood up, and began the quiet fight for everything I built. That moment wasn't the end. It was the start. Christmas Eve in Savannah has a way of wrapping itself around you, the air thick with pine and sugar, the house smelling like rosemary and honey glaze. I arrived early, as I always do, to make sure everything was right. Lucan used to carve the turkey, and since he passed, I'd taken that role quietly, setting his knife where his hand once rested. I moved slower now, but my memory was sharp. I remembered every face that used to sit at this table. "Y'all wash up," I called, my voice soft but certain. The younger ones brushed past me, eyes glued to their phones. Valora, my daughter-in-law, was arranging candles like she was filming an ad. Her laughter was too polished, too bright. Jonas, my son, kept checking his phone, not once looking my way. And Nia, my granddaughter, gave me that small, guilty smile, the kind that made me want to pull her close and remind her she came from women who didn't flinch. The head chair stood waiting, right where it always did. It wasn't about power, it was memory. The wood carried years of grace and grief. But when I looked down, there was a name card. Valora's father. My name wasn't there. Still, I moved the card aside and straightened the chair. "No one said a word," I whispered. "I don't need applause, just my seat." When I started to sit, the world tilted. The chair slid out fast. The air knocked from my lungs as my body hit the hardwood. The laughter stopped. Even the clock seemed to hold its breath. My palm burned against the floor. My pride stayed upright. Valora's voice sliced through the silence. "This seat is for my father. Get out of here." Her tone, flat, professional, like I was an employee late on a deadline. Jonas froze. He reached halfway toward me, then pulled back. I caught the hesitation and said nothing. Aunt Bee gasped. "Lord have mercy," I brushed off her hand. "Don't you worry about me." Someone coughed to hide a laugh. My eyes swept the room, every one of them complicit in their silence. I stood, straightened my dress, and said, "Y'all enjoy dinner." But I didn't leave. Not yet. I served the turkey, my hand steady, voice calm. Valora kept talking about sponsors and holiday partnerships. I listened, marking every word. When Jonas muttered, "Mom, just let it go," I said, "Eat while it's warm." That shut the table quiet again. I didn't cry. Women like me learned long ago that tears don't move mountains. Signatures do. I excused myself, went upstairs to the cedar room that still smelled like Lucan's cologne. My fingers found the old safe behind the coats. The code, his birthday, still opened it. Inside lay what mattered: deeds, trust papers, and a small silver USB engraved December light. Lucan's voice echoed in my mind. "When people won't listen, write everything down." I had emails, receipts, every insult they'd ever tried to dress up as kindness. Downstairs, I could hear Valora's laughter again, loud, hollow. I looked out the window and whispered, "They can keep their noise. I'll take the pen." I took out my phone, snapped a photo of the place cards, time-stamped it, saved it to the folder labeled proof. I wasn't angry anymore, just awake. "When they took my chair," I said softly, "they handed me the table." The morning light crawled through the blinds, pale and cold. I sat up before the alarm, my back stiff from the fall, my pride even stiffer. "Old bones. New day," I whispered, sliding my feet into slippers. The house was quiet, too quiet for Christmas morning. I brewed half a cup of coffee, doctor's orders, and sipped it slow, staring at the steam until it faded. I didn't text Jonas or Valora. Not today. I packed the USB labeled December light into my coat pocket, locked the safe, and left without a sound. The air outside bit sharper than usual. Savannah slept beneath thin fog and holiday lights. I drove past the riverfront, its reflection trembling like my thoughts. At every stoplight, I repeated a rule to myself. No confrontation, only paper. Let the pen do the talking, I murmured. Broughton Street was empty, except for a jogger who tipped his chin at me. I nodded back. The attorney's office, Bradley and Vale, sat above a bakery still closed for the day. I parked 2 blocks away, fed quarters into the meter. Quarters still worth a quarter, I said, locking the car. Inside, the front desk woman smiled with professional sweetness. We're closed to the public for the holiday. I'm not the public, I said calmly. I'm a client in the making. She blinked, uncertain, then asked for a name. Atticus Vale, I replied, sliding one of Lucan's old business cards across the counter. Estate Council prospects. It read in faded ink. Her hand hovered over the phone. Honey, I said gently, I won't take long. Just point me where decisions get made. After a tense pause, she called upstairs. I stood the whole time. My tailbone wouldn't forgive another fall. The elevator chimed, and a tall man with rolled sleeves appeared. Atticus Vale. He studied me like he'd seen my kind before, women carrying whole legacies in one small purse. Come on up, he said. His office smelled like lemon cleaner and quiet money. Law books lined the wall. His desk was neat except for one yellow pad and a cup of cold coffee. You're Lucan Hemsworth's widow, he said, not asking. I am, and I'm not here for condolences. We spoke plainly. I told him what happened. No tears, no embellishment. He asked, You looking for confrontation? I'm looking for documentation. I answered. That earned the first real nod. I placed the USB on his desk but kept my hand on it. You'll open it with me watching. He powered up a clean laptop, disconnected the Wi-Fi. We air gap first, then image the drive. I approved. Inside the files were Lucan's trust drafts, trademark sketches, bylaws for a foundation we never filed. My pulse steadied. Atticus leaned back. This draft makes you surviving trustee with amendment rights. That's leverage. In English, I said, can I restore what's mine without a shouting match? With filings and timing. Yes. He wrote out a plan. Title cleanup, trust restoration, brand protection. You'll document last night. Chair marks, photos, timestamps. Small facts tell big stories. I'll need that in writing, I said. He smiled. You sound like a lawyer yourself. No, I replied. Just a woman who learned the hard way. We agreed. No social media, no family drama, no calls, just filings. He slid me the engagement letter. I signed. Steady hand. Good lawyering isn't cheap, he warned. Neither is peace, I said. When I left, the river wind carried faint brass music, someone warming up for a parade. I didn't look at my reflection in the glass. I looked at the notary sign across the street and memorized the hours. In my car, I recorded. December 25th, 9:52 a.m. Meeting with Atticus Vale concluded. Strategy adopted. Filings first. My phone buzzed. A new email. Subject line. Follow-up. Heritage brand. The sender's name looked familiar. I didn't open it. I just whispered. Let them talk where the microphones are. I'll speak where the signatures live. When I got back home, the air inside felt colder than the porch. I parked behind the magnolia tree, slipped through the mudroom, and ignored the grand front hall like it was a stranger's house. My body still ached, a dull reminder across my back and tailbone, but pain was just another detail now, something to record. I grabbed a notepad, scribbled December 24th, 6:52 p. Fall. Pain scale, 7. Then drew a line underneath it. Facts first. The dining room looked exactly as it had been left, plates half cleared, napkins crumpled, the air still carrying hints of rosemary and wine. I whispered. Everything stays put until I say otherwise, like Lucan used to when we ran his shop. Then I started freezing time with my phone, photos of the chair's position, the scuffed wood beneath it, the place cards Valora printed. I took close-ups, wide shots, reflections in the crystal. My name missing from the head of the table said enough. The pantry camera app opened with a tap. Quiet as confession. I exported every timestamp from 5:30 to 7:30, labeled each folder with precision. Next, I checked my health app. The little fall detection spike blinked red around the same time my dignity hit the floor. I added it all to the incident folder. Clean chain. No noise. While scanning deed copies and Lucan's old foundation drafts, I heard footsteps. Jonas. I didn't turn. Mom, about last night. I raised a hand. We're not doing feelings. We're doing facts. He froze. The kind of silence grown men use when they realize the room's rules changed. I'm fine, I said. I'm documenting, going forward, contact in writing. Are you really making a big deal out of a holiday accident? He asked, voice half apology, half defense. Accidents don't come with commands, I replied, and I heard her words clearly. He looked toward the folders on the study table. Deed, trust, incident. I didn't need to explain. I quoted Atticus's rule, do not engage. For me, I said, it means calm. For you, it means don't interfere. He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. You've changed, Mom. No, I said. I just stopped asking permission to be respected. Then I walked away, first. At the desk, I wrote a one-page memo. Facts, witnesses, words, no adjectives, no drama. I printed photos, stapled timestamps, attached my health data, and labeled the top Evidence Pack 1, 1225. It felt more like rebuilding a foundation than writing a complaint. I sent it to Atticus with one line. This is the floor we'll stand on. Downstairs, I taped a small notice for the gate guard. No furniture moves, no decor changes, all deliveries recorded. I called him after. Email me a report at 9 each night. Plates, names, times. Yes, ma'am, he said. Copy that. Before sunset, I rehung Lucan's ring by the door. I checked the silver, the china, the safe, everything in place. I whispered, still ours. Love. The camellias out front glowed soft in the golden hour. I told them, y'all still holding me up, and smiled at how silly it sounded. But it helped. I locked the USB December light in a new fireproof pouch. The imaged copy stayed with Atticus. The original slept where it belonged. I brewed tea, no sugar, and let the quiet stretch. Somewhere down the drive, laughter floated from Valora's wing of the house. I didn't join. Silence was my new ally. My phone buzzed once, an email from a brand partnerships address. Valora was CC'd. The subject line read, Heritage Brand Ownership. Quick clarification. I hit forward, typed only 2 words to Atticus. Noted, waiting. Then I set the mug down. If they wanted quick, they should have thought of that before the chair moved. Morning light crept across my study, landing on the stack of folders from yesterday. My coffee steamed quietly beside the laptop as I opened the email thread that had been waiting overnight. Heritage Brand Ownership. Quick clarification. The words looked polite, but I'd lived long enough to recognize the tone of erasure when I saw it. The partner's representative had written, "Could we confirm who actually controls the estate for photo access?" Valora was CC'd, opening with that fake-friendly, "Hi, team!" I scrolled down and saw she'd forwarded my foundation documents, my mission statements, stripped clean of my name, just initials and placeholders. Caretaker, family matriarch figure, heritage liaison. Every phrase carefully crafted to make me a prop in my own story. I smiled at the precision. It wasn't clumsy theft, it was corporate theft. So I wrote back, no adjectives, no heat, just bullet points, property deed attached, Ian letter, bylaw pages, signature authority, Azalea Hemsworth. I ended it with one sentence. Ownership and creative rights are vested in me. See exhibits attached. Then I blind copied Atticus Vale and Harper Quill. Paper first, outrage later. The intercom buzzed before I could even finish my toast. Niles Corbin, HOA president, voice dripping with courtesy, announced. Gate codes are temporarily disabled for a security reconciliation. I could hear tires on gravel, white SUV idling by the hedges. Valora sat in the passenger seat, pretending not to stare at the camera I'd installed by the drive. Policy citation? I asked. He hesitated. Verbal board consensus, he said. Email it. I replied. When the SUV didn't move, I called Deputy Morales on the non-emergency line. Possible gate interference, private property. I unlocked the manual override, documented in Alma Bishop's logbook, and filmed the whole process. The SUV rolled forward an inch, like it belonged here. I stepped into view. This is a private driveway. Do not encroach. The driver hesitated, then reversed, crunching gravel under expensive tires. By noon, Niles tried again, claiming he was doing a wellness check because neighbors heard you fell. I almost laughed. You're not law enforcement, I said. He pushed, talking about habitability verification. I pointed at the deed. Private lot, no easement. Morales called back, confirming what we both knew. The HOA couldn't fake an emergency to cross my gate. I filmed the SUV's license plate as it backed out. Valora kept her phone face down. The act of guilt always looks tidy. Back at my desk, I hit send on the brand thread reply. The attachment sat like armor in the email. All creative shoots require my written approval. I wrote, Our estate is not pay-to-play, heritage is not barter. Within minutes, Harper replied, Perfect tone. Let them step into it. Atticus added, S7 logged, prepare TRO draft. The partner's rep wrote back quickly. Thank you, Ms. Hemsworth. We'll direct all requests to you. I watched Valora's preview bubble flash on my screen, some private complaint to Jonas, and set the phone face down. Late afternoon brought a courtesy notice from Niles about my signage, non-compliant aesthetic. I responded with citations from the CC&Rs and attached 3 photos of approved sizes. He threatened a fine. I CC'd the entire board and requested vote logs. Morales arrived again. Body cam on. We walked the property line together while I narrated every step for the report. You've got this lined up tighter than a drum, ma'am, he said. Paperwork, I answered, is my favorite percussion. Evening quiet finally came. I cooked collards and cornbread, set 1 plate for Lucan, 1 for me. A florist van pulled up, arrangement tagged, for the matriarch V. I photographed it, emailed Atticus. Gift refused, chain preserved. Upstairs, Jonas's voice carried through the hallway, half apology, half plea, but I stayed silent. When the phone buzzed again, 2 alerts appeared. Harper's calendar invite, TRO no contact consult, Deck 27 10 or MRAM, and an HOA notice for a special session, agenda redacted. I circled the date on the desk calendar. If they want a meeting, I'll bring the minutes. I woke to the phone buzzing like a wasp in a jar. 12 missed calls before sunrise. The subject lines read like smoke alarms. Governance concern. Internal instability. Clarify foundation control. A neighborhood post had gone viral overnight, quoting an unnamed family source, saying I was mentally unfit and that Valora Tinsley had stepped in to stabilize operations. Gossip travels faster when it flatters people's cruelty. I brewed coffee, opened my leather notebook, and wrote that thought down. I don't chase rumors, I timestamp them by 7:30. Harper Quill texted a media grid, columns labeled say, hold, ignore. No adjectives, she said, only documents. Atticus Vale pinged. If HOA touches that gate again, we file TRO draft at 10. I replied with a thumbs up and attached the previous night's reports. Control begins with paperwork, not temper. At 10 sharp, the Zoom opened. Donors blinked in little squares. The brand rep pursed her lips, waiting for apology theater. Instead, I held the deed to the camera, my name crisp under embossed lettering. There is one signatory for this property and this foundation, I said, voice steady. You're looking at her. I showed the EIN letter and the bylaws, each page labeled, scanned, and time-stamped. Then my policy, 3 lines. All shoots paused. All access requires written consent. HOA interference falls outside your scope. No performance, no outrage. 12 minutes later, the meeting ended. Harper slacked. Panic cooled. Expect HOA second wave. I closed the laptop. Paper wins. Noise dies. By noon, the HOA's special session began. Redacted agenda. Safety. Compliance. Nuisance communication. Code for Azalea. Cameras off except Valora. Framed in soft light. Tone sweet as poison. We're concerned about elder safety, she said. I asked for vote logs and statutory authority. Niles Corbin mumbled about customary practice. I cited the Georgia Transparency Statute by section number. The motion appeared anyway. Temporary caretaker oversight. Access rebalancing. I cut in. Calm and cold. No emergency exists. My lot is private. Any lockout attempt triggers litigation. Silence stretched. I added, this call is being recorded and archived. Then I left. 10 minutes later, the gate keypad blinked, maintenance lock. Timing was always the tell. Alma Bishop texted, vendor says HOA tried to authorize reset per board. I refused. I called Morales. He drove over, added a supplemental note, pattern of attempted interference. We tested the manual override, logged it, filmed it. Jonas texted, it's just to keep things calm. Mom. Calm is the word people use before taking your keys. I archived it under S10 and emailed Atticus. Escalation attempted. Proceed. By mid-afternoon, Atticus sent the TRO draft, Niles, Valora, and any agent acting in concert. Declarations attached. Deed, emails, HOA call, vendor record, Morales' report. Courier brings a courtesy copy tonight. He wrote, let them feel tomorrow coming. I printed 3 sets, signed, slid one into a black envelope labeled Notice. Harper prepped our 1-line statement. Ms. Hemsworth has sought a court order to prevent further interference with her lawful property rights. The envelope sat beside Lucan's brass watch, gleaming in afternoon light. At dusk, the driveway turned into a stage. Valora arrived with Jonas. Both polished, practiced. Niles followed, pretending coincidence. Valora opened with a purr. We're worried. Azalea, people are talking. I said, people love a wrong story more than a right paragraph. Niles tried the charm. Temporary oversight for your protection. I pointed at the porch camera. Smile. Then I handed him the envelope. Tomorrow's filing. Read it tonight. Decide who you are. Jonas softened his tone. We can fix this if you let Valora coordinate, I replied. Coordination requires competence and consent. You have neither. They left under the hum of the porch light, faces carved into politeness. I watched their taillights vanish, then backed up every file twice. The USB December light pulsed behind steel in the safe. Alma texted, "Perimeter clear." I answered with a single thumbs up. Lucan's watch ticked steady. "Let morning see the papers," I wrote. At 11:30, headlights stopped at the gate. A figure stepped out, placed a manila envelope on the pedestal, then drove away. I didn't touch it. Chain of custody first, curiosity second. Whatever they just dropped, it'll read softer in the morning under a judge's stamp. At 6 sharp, the porch camera caught the envelope gleaming pale under morning light. I filmed the scene before touching a thing, my voice calm but clear for the record. December 28th, 6:02 a.m. Gloves on. I slipped the packet into a plastic sleeve. Inside lay an unsigned wellness visit request, a fake caretaker authorization, and a photocopy of a temporary access order with no seal. I smiled thinly. Fraud always forgets the footer. Each page bore mismatched fonts, no clerk's stamp, no judge's signature. I photographed them beside today's Savannah Journal for proof of date, then emailed Atticus and Morales, potential fraudulent orders, exhibit candidate. Harper got a text, no statements, just paper after the hearing. Lucan's brass watch clicked beside the deed like a metronome for patience. By 8:45, Atticus and I filed the TRO. The clerk stamped hard, the sound satisfying as a gavel. In chambers, the judge listened without fuss. Atticus spoke in bullet points. Ownership, interference, pattern of deceit. I said only, "I am the titled owner." That was enough. We played the 20-second HOA recording, Niles Corbin falsely claiming emergency authority. The judge's brow lifted. "Contempt will come fast if they try that again." TRO granted, restraining Niles, Valora, and all persons acting in concert. Order to preserve every communication. "Serve it today," the judge said. Atticus nodded. I exhaled. Paper wins in daylight because daylight has no sympathy for liars. At 11, the process server handed the TRO to Niles and Valora right there on camera. Jonas stood nearby, face stiff, eyes darting to the bold text naming him in concert. Niles muttered, "Misunderstanding." The server deadpanned. "The order understands you." I sent the TRO to every vendor, gate service, HOA board, and the brand rep. Court order attached. Disregard contrary directives. Harper's media note was one clean sentence citing the docket number. No adjectives, no drama. The vendors confirmed. Gate resets now required my signature only. For the first time since Christmas dinner, shattered. My lungs felt full again. Back home, I opened the safe. The USB labeled December light glimmered like a fuse, waiting to be lit. Atticus joined via video as I mirrored the files, call logs, HOA, text threads, and audio from the dining room Sonos. Valora's voice crackled through, "Request a global reset per HOA. Frame it as elder safety." The next clip hit harder, her Christmas shriek. "This seat is for my father." Then the shove, my fall, the scrape, the collective gasp. Silence afterward was louder than any apology. Atticus tagged the files Exhibit C through G. Harper prepared a redacted brief for the donors. I whispered to Lucan's watch. Quiet wins when the mic is honest. By 3, I was back on Zoom with the donors and brand team. I led with the TRO order number, not emotion. "Here's the file, here's who signs." I laid out policies, zero misrepresentation, written approvals only, HOA input irrelevant. The brand rep apologized and reinstated the partnership under my control. One donor offered funds for personal security. I told him, "Hardware's fine. I don't hire watchers." Harper messaged. Sentiment graph flipped. "Hold steady." I smiled. Paperwork had finally outshouted gossip. Near dusk, Alma supervised the new tamper alerts on the gate. Every keypad touch now left a digital photo. Jonas arrived, hands shoved deep in his coat. "I didn't know it'd go this far," he said. I looked at him evenly. "You knew enough to watch me fall." I handed him a folder. Counseling options, restitution plan, boundary agreement. He asked, "Are we done as a family?" I replied, "We're pausing the performance. Family takes work, not an audience." He left without looking back. Alma logged the time. I set out a bowl of oranges. Hospitality without surrender. At 8:20, my inbox pinged. Emergency HOA meeting. Agenda compliance correction. They were scrambling. Then a firm knock. Through the camera lens, a different process server. Crisp suit, new envelope. I opened the door. The name on top line read mine as plaintiff. Before dawn. I sat alone in the kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound brave enough to share the quiet with me. The TRO lay open beside my coffee, edges crisp, my handwriting neat in the margins. I underlined acting in concert twice, thinking how that phrase had become the whole story of the week, people acting together, pretending concern while plotting control. I printed 3 new copies, slid them into clear folders, and stacked them like armor. The smell of fresh ink felt cleaner than any apology I'd received. Atticus texted before sunrise, "Go in steady, I'll monitor the feed." Alma Bishop, ever precise, confirmed she'd wear the body cam under her cardigan. Harper emailed the talking line again. "We reference court documents, not adjectives." I smiled at that. Harper knew my rules before I spoke them. I added Lucan's brass watch to my blazer pocket, its tick steady against my pulse. "You're not here to win a fight," I whispered. "You're here to finish one." By 10, the HOA meeting smelled like stale pastries and tension. Niles Corbin cleared his throat, eyes darting between the folded papers in front of him. "Just holiday confusion," he began, voice rehearsed. I waited until he paused for breath, then stood. Azalea Hemsworth, Lot 12. I laid the stamped TRO beside the mic. The gold seal caught the fluorescent light, cutting through the room like judgment. I read each point: date of the lockout, vendor transcript ID, copy of the fraudulent caretaker order. My voice didn't shake. It didn't need to. Truth has its own echo. Valora shifted, trying a polished smile. "We were all just concerned for her well-being." "Concern doesn't come with passwords," I said, looking straight at her. Gasps rippled. A neighbor raised her hand. Did the HOA really say she needed supervision? Silence answered. Another member, younger, looked pale. "This exposes us," she whispered. Niles stammered, then muttered something about customary practice. I proposed 3 motions: rescind unauthorized directives, send vendor corrections, and censure those responsible. When the vote passed, the sound of chairs scraping was louder than applause. Niles announced he was stepping back temporarily. Valora slipped out the side door without looking at me. As the room emptied, a man in a gray suit approached. "Ms. Hemsworth?" He handed me the acknowledgement for my own civil filing, defamation, interference, emotional distress. My name, bold at the top, steadied me more than caffeine. I signed, 2 witnesses nodding. Harper texted instantly, media sniffing for quotes. I typed back, governance, not revenge. Paper wins. Outside, The air carried that sharp savanna chill that smells faintly of salt and pine. The property manager handed me the new vendor policy to sign. Owner of record, I wrote carefully. Alma took photos of every posted notice. The sunlight made the TRO seal gleam again. Justice glitters differently in daylight. By mid-afternoon, I was on a call with the Heritage Brands legal team. They apologized with too many words. I interrupted. Show me the amendment. They uploaded it. My name, sole signatory. Penalties for false representation. Atticus read line by line, nodded once. Language holds. The donor chimed in, promising funding for security improvements, hardware only. I smiled. I accept infrastructure, not interference. Harper posted a 4-line press update citing document numbers. Nothing emotional. Jonas came by just before dusk, shoulders tight, eyes uncertain. I didn't know it would go this far, he said. You knew enough to stay silent while it did. He flinched, but stayed. I slid the restitution and boundaries sheet across the table. Apology in writing, payment for damage, therapy, and no Valora here for 90 days. If I do this, are we okay? He asked. We're repairing, not pretending. He read the paper slowly, lips moving on each line like a child relearning language. My mother's voice came back to me, a sentence that used to sting but now healed. Dignity doesn't shout, it just stands where it belongs. Jonas nodded, signed the intent page, and left quieter than he arrived. Evening came with soft digital noise, notifications, headlines, corrections. Harper's memo circulated, board resignations confirmed, record corrected. Comments turned kind. She handled it with grace. Good neighbor. Someone wrote, about time women over 60 got credit for knowing the law. I closed the laptop, exhaled through a long smile. I rehung Lucan's photo, his grin halfway between pride and mischief, and placed a small bowl of oranges beneath it, a southern gesture of peace. Alma double-checked the gate sensors. The click of the lock sounded like applause. I wrote a letter to myself on stationery older than Jonas. You held the line and didn't lose your warmth. I sealed it for New Year's Day. At 10:18, my phone buzzed. Atticus. Valora's lawyer filed a motion to dissolve TRO, claiming owner instability. Hearing next week. I whispered. Let her try. Harper forwarded a clip of Valora deleting her posts. Then a message popped up from Valora herself. You won't win. I didn't reply. Some silence is heavier than words. I placed the TRO on my nightstand, Lucan's watch beside it, the tick and the paper keeping time together. Tomorrow would come bright, and I intended to meet it standing up. Daylight, I said softly. Let's see who you believe. I woke before the alarm, the sky still soft gray outside my window. My voice steadied as I rehearsed the one line that mattered. Your Honor, I'm here to correct the record. On the table sat my binder of exhibits, flash drives labeled A through K, and the notarized vendor corrections that had carried me through each sleepless night. Atticus texted me the final checklist, his words short and calm. I packed Lucan's brass watch into my pocket and tucked a peppermint in beside it, something to keep me grounded. Before locking the door, I left the porch light on. My grandmother always said, when you go to defend your name, make sure your home remembers you'll return. At the courthouse, the morning air smelled of paper and anxiety. Alma waited by security, holding the sealed envelope like it was scripture. Across the lobby, Valora appeared with her new lawyer, her heels too loud for the silence around her. We entered together, though it felt like different worlds. The clerk called our case. I stood, said my full name, and confirmed. Owner of record. Atticus began calmly, no drama, just evidence and timestamps. Valora's attorney tried to color the story with sympathy and words like instability. The judge frowned at their exhibits, social media screenshots and gossip. Who authorized vendor supervision over a homeowner? He asked sharply. I slid Exhibit CF and the HOA minutes forward. The judge's brow arched. The air shifted when the recordings played. The audio of that dinner, her voice shouting, "This seat is for my father! Get out!" filled the room. The scrape of the chair, the sound of me hitting the floor. I didn't flinch. I'd already lived it once. Atticus followed with the HOA memo and the censure letter. The judge looked over his glasses. Temporary restraining orders are not invitations for testing boundaries, he said. Valora's lawyer tried to redirect, muttering about family tension. The judge cut him off. We don't erase deeds with feelings. You could feel the sentence land like a gavel before the sound came. The ruling came fast but carried the weight of months. The TRO was extended 90 days. Valora was ordered to stay away and to fund restitution for property damage and legal costs. The court referred her elder safety justification to an ethics review. I didn't smile, just nodded once and thanked the court. Justice doesn't shout, I said quietly to myself. It signs. Valora left first, eyes darting toward the door as if daylight itself were judging her. By noon, my phone buzzed nonstop. The Heritage brand officially cut all ties with Valora, releasing a neutral post citing verified ownership. The donor sent a message that began, "We regret the confusion," and ended with, "Full authority remains with Ms. Hemsworth." Harper organized a brief Q&A for reporters, all document-based. I allowed one photo, me signing the new security grant, with my glasses reflecting courthouse light. Jonas arrived later, carrying a folder and an apology written in pen, not typed. He read it out loud, each word shaking a little but true. "Mom," he said, "I'm sorry for standing by while someone else tried to take your place." I handed him the restitution and boundaries agreement. "This isn't punishment," I said. "It's repair." He nodded, signing each page, eyes wet but steady. When he reached the final clause, progress, not pretend, he whispered it back to me. I gave him his house key on a small cord. "You'll earn it daily," I said. "Start with tomorrow." That evening, the neighborhood gathered for tea and pie. I'd printed the new policy sheets and laminated them right beside the cookies. Alma demonstrated the tamper alerts, and when the little chime sounded, people clapped like a hymn. A neighbor said, "You taught us to keep records like recipes." I laughed until my eyes stung. As dusk fell, the sheriff's deputy drove by, confirming service of the extended TRO. The HOA posted the signed minutes online. The brand's post trended for its restraint, not its spectacle. I went inside and slid the Christmas chair, my chair, back under the dining table. The wood no longer carried shame. It was just a seat, mine again. I sat down, exhaled, and felt the house breathe with me. Across from me, the other chair stayed empty. Not a loss, but a boundary. I picked up my pen and wrote the last line in my notebook. "If anyone pulls your chair again, stand, speak, and bring the record." Outside, the porch light glowed steady in the cool night air. Justice didn't shout. It signed. And this time, it signed my name. As I turned off the porch light, a faint knock echoed through the quiet. A courier's shadow lingered beyond the gate, holding something sealed in gold paper. No name, just my address. I hesitated, hand on the latch. Was it closure, or the next chapter beginning? Stay tuned to find out.